And here we go.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni!
Fires upfield into the end zone, and it's caught! Jelani Woods! Touchdown! INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Galloway drives all the way to the hole, throws it up. Got it! Indiana's got their first lead of this contest.
I mean, that's a goddamn winner right there.
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you on this Tuesday, August 1st. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks you a lot. Looking forward to Mike DeCourcy joining us on the program today. Tronic Hoosier as well. See what else we can get scared up. Of course, the Reds are rolling. They beat the Cubs last night. Exactly. That's a great question, K-Bro. Need to get K-Bro on. Today is the MLB trade deadline. I don't know what they're going to do, K-Bro. They need some pitching, baby. They need pitching if they're going to be serious. So, what names are going to be swapped around? That's going to be very interesting to see. Yes, what a great morning. Bob, how are you? Fred, Philip. What an incredible night last night. Oh, my gosh. I was thinking this is like October weather, man. Incredible. How's everybody doing today? But yeah, the trade deadline for Major League Baseball is today. Who's going to do what? The Reds currently with a 1.5 game lead in the Central Division. Last night they beat the Cubbies. And the Reds, they've won 7 out of their last 10. Milwaukee has lost 7 out of their last 10. Although that they seem to get the best of the Reds when they play. But it doesn't matter, baby. The Cubbies currently in third in the division. They were on a roll. They had won, I don't know, like 7 or 8 straight until they ran into the Big Red Machine. Well, they lost before that, I think, but just it's fun that baseball's fun. At least it's fun for us. K-Bro's not excited about the his Mets. They've sunk a little further, man. They're second to last. They're 17.5 games back. Only 5 games under 500, but unfortunately it's in the league, in the division with the best team in baseball, Atlanta, with 67 wins. Leads it all, baby. Wait a minute. First of all, Mr. Michael, this is not new. If you've seen this, has been here forever. I've worn it before. So chill out, Michael. Michael in. No bandwagon hat here, baby. I've dealt with this crap for years. So, no. It's not a bandwagon hat. Believe you me. How is K-Bro doing? K-Bro, wish you were on here with us today. You're welcome to join, as a matter of fact. Yeah, there are some. It is funny how whenever somebody wins, you do see more merchandise of theirs. But yeah, this one's been around for a minute, baby. Yeah, it's been around for a minute. No reason. There was no reason to wear it before. Being new, the Reds had become the new Cubs. Wasn't much fun about that. But what are you going to do? They're rolling right now. I just don't know if they've got enough to they've got offense and defense. It's just the pitching that's a little scary in comparison to everything else. Who's going to do what in the Big Ten this year in football, or a volleyball poll rather? Wisconsin's picked to win it. Nebraska, Minnesota, Penn State, Purdue, Ohio State, Illinois, and then Indiana in 8th. Hey, man. Indiana is picked in front of Maryland. How about that? That's not bad. That's moved up. Nebraska coach Matt Rule said to defensive back Miles Farmer, the team's number 2 leading tackler last season, is suspended indefinitely. Farmer is not currently listed on the Cornhuskers roster despite training camp starting on Monday. Rule did not disclose the reason for Farmer's suspension, though Farmer was suspended by the previous Husker coaching staff after being arrested on suspicion of drunk driving. He missed the Michigan game as punishment. First-year Nebraska coach announced that Baylor transfer wide receiver Josh Fleeks is not available after reporting to training camp significantly overweight. A wide receiver, significantly overweight. Meanwhile, they've got a defensive lineman, who is recovering from injury sustained in a car accident that could keep him out for the season. So they got all kinds of stuff going on over there in Nebraska. Don't forget, Indiana Sports Beat Radio is powered by Andy Moore Honda. Just go to andymoorehonda.com to get more to your door and the best in new and used vehicles. And Endeavor Hospitality and its wealth and family of restaurants in and around the Bloomington area. Great places like Chop Shop, former BB's, where you can get the best in custom meats, custom-made products, and a brand new steakhouse next door. That is excellent. How's everybody doing today? Looking forward to talking to Michael DeCourcy today as well. Let's see. Also, Indiana football announced on Monday the construction of a football-only weight room in Memorial Stadium's North End Zone facility, thanks to a financial donation from Indiana alumnus Jay Wilkinson. We are very appreciative of Jay's long-standing support and commitment to positively impacting our student athletes. Scott Dolson, AD Scott Dolson said, the project would not only provide our football student athletes with the necessary equipment and space to maximize their abilities and opportunities as IU student athletes, but also the flexibility to use the space 24/7, 365. The new weight room is planned to be part of the Jay and Nancy Wilkinson Performance Center in Memorial Stadium, and planning the space is already underway with expected completion in early 2024. So where will that go? The North End Zone. Well, there's already a weight room in the North End Zone. So we'll have to figure that one out. As a passionate supporter of Indiana University and its student athletes, I know how important it is to have access to the type of facilities that give the students yada, yada. Wilkinson has previously donated to IU Athletics. Since 2017, he donated $10 million to the construction of Wilkinson Hall. So there you go. A new weight room for the football program, but I don't know where that's going to go since there's already one in the North End Zone. Just curious. We'll have to figure that one out. Someone smarter than myself. That's right, Renata. Michael says the Mets are fun to watch as Cards are sellers. Yeah, this year. That's a first. John from Southport jumping on as well. Yeah. St. Louis, they're out, baby. 11 and a half games out. 13 games under 500. But who's going to do what? Who's going to do what? We've got lots more coming up on the program today. Mike DeCourcy is going to join us. Chronic Hoosier as well. Stick around. We've got more. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I was going to say the C in your hat stands for Coyle, not Cincinnati.
Exactly. There you go.
We go live in about 30 seconds, just so you know. All right, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, August 1st. First day of August, man. School starting back up, football practice starting up, whatever else is going on. Little League World Series comes. I guess the regionals have started, I think. We went over there yesterday. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I noticed Kentucky added a 7-foot Croatian. Yeah. It was Vanimir Ivizic to their class. 20-year-old from Croatia, considered one of the top European prospects. Kentucky has just added to their roster. Think back, it wasn't long ago they had no one, but they have just added and added and added. So next year when you panic, remember, just relax. Just like this final roster spot Indiana has right now. It seems as though they're comfortable just letting it sit there, but I don't know. I don't know that they do that. Especially with the depth issues we've seen Indiana suffer the last couple of years. I would imagine they're going to want to get everybody that they can. So that means all 13 scholarship players. So I think that they try to find someone to fill that final spot. We'll find out.
Are there still players out there, or are you suggesting they look over?
No,
like Kentucky did.
There are players out there. There are players, and I'm not suggesting the kid from Harvard, but Leland. But there are players like that are out there. I would just be surprised if they left that spot open when there are enough players like him that are grad transfers, 1-year transfers, where you're not going to have to worry about using up a scholarship after next year, as opposed to just letting it sit there empty just for the body, if nothing else. Who they get to fill that's a different question and a different answer. I don't know, but let's see. Tannis says, while listening while he helps the old lady pack for her friend's wedding in Minocqua, Wisconsin. I've been to Minocqua. How about that? Lucked out, didn't have to go spend the week in the mosquito-infested Northwoods. Well, there's that. Glad to have you with us. Kent checking in from Mount Pleasant, Michigan. And Mike DeCourcy is along as well. Michael, how are you doing, sir?
I am well. I'm wearing my Reds gear too there. So there you go.
You're not even a Reds fan, are you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I keep thinking you're a Pirates fan.
No, that's the one exception to Pittsburgh teams that my wife and I made from our. I wrote an article about this back in 2013. My wife was the PR executive in charge of the opening of Great American Ballpark, as well as the implosion.
Oh, wow.
Of Synergy Field. And she worked with a lot of the Reds people, and she sort of got really, she really started to like them. And the Pirates were, from the time we left, I mean, Pittsburgh should actually pay the two of us to move back, because from the time we left until now, the Pirates, I think, have had something like 31 losing seasons or 28 losing seasons in 31 years or something awful like that. So the Reds were there to sort of pick that up, and ultimately we had to make a choice in 2012. And she's the real baseball fan in the family, so she won.
Yeah, I just got accused earlier. Someone said, "Hey, you're wearing the bandwagon hat." I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I have suffered long and hard for 30 years, baby. Don't call this a bandwagon hat.
Absolutely. There's a lot of suffering in there, too. You trade for Ken Griffey Jr., you think everything's going to be wonderful. And Ken Griffey Jr. played almost as many games during his decade with the Reds as I did. Almost.
Yeah. What a shame. Yeah, you think that stuff's going to be great, and it doesn't work. They open up the payroll on somebody, and it doesn't work. And now, speaking of, it's the trade deadline is here. And the Reds, while leading the National League Central right now, they've won 7 out of their last 10. They beat the Cubs last night. They beat the Dodgers the night before that. But they've got to have pitching, man.
Yeah, it'd be nice to get another arm or two. It really would. I don't know exactly what they want to give up to get that, but I do think that it's worthwhile them. They're playing too well to not at least take a shot, because you just don't know. I mean, you look around and one of the things that's interesting about how well they've played is if they could just avoid the Brewers.
Exactly.
I mean, their record against everybody but the Brewers is one of the best in baseball. Like, if you remove every game, they become not quite the Braves, but they become one of the best records in baseball. And I understand that you can't remove that, but they don't play them the rest of the year. No more games against the Brewers.
That's the best thing. That's the best thing.
It is a good thing because although, if you were in a different situation, you'd say, oh, if we can play them, we can make up ground quicker. Well,
Oh, he lost Mike for a second. He'll pop back in, but yeah, I was thinking that very thing. The Brewers have had the Reds number. There we go. Got him back now.
All right, there I am.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, man. The Brewers they had the Reds number. It's like, wow, it doesn't matter how well they were playing. It's like they run into the Brewers. It's like pop right in the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, their play against the Braves was good. The Braves are by far the best record in baseball. Their play in LA against the Dodgers was terrific over the weekend. So I'm not saying that they're better than those teams. Don't get me wrong. But they're good enough to be competitive. And so if you could just get yourself another arm, preferably one, obviously 2 arms would be great. One more bullpen arm and one more starting pitcher. That'd really be helpful.
Yeah, baseball is fun again. Why is baseball fun again? It can't just be the pitch clock. But
that's a lot of it.
But it is definitely fun again.
That's a lot of it. It really is. I mean, and I think part of the reason it's fun, in addition to the schematic differences that the pitch clock makes, is that certain teams, either by design or by happy accident, are better situated to take advantage of the changes that the pitch clock has led to, specifically the running game. And the Reds, I don't know that they necessarily said, hey, in 2023, we're going to have a pitch clock and it's going to really be great to have speed. So let's draft for that and let's sign Illy De La Cruz, et cetera. I don't think that that's how it came about. But once you get to this level, you get to this circumstance, and you see that the running game is rewarded, you say, let's embrace that. The baseball over the last 20 years would have said, nope, we're not running. We're waiting for that guy hitting third to hit the ball out of the park, and then we'll score 3 runs. That's the way it's been for the last 10 to 20 years. And I don't think that's how it is now. So it now, the pitch clock has led to teams saying, let's put our guys in motion. Let's hit the ball where they aren't. I'm not going to use the grammatically incorrect version of that. Let's hit them where they aren't, and let's play it that way. And yeah, if we can hit it out of the park, we'll hit it out of the park. But you don't just wait on that. I have not checked this, but I would be willing to venture there are fewer strikeouts in baseball this year, per diem, per pro rata. I'd be willing to bet right now there are fewer strikeouts in baseball than there were when I wrote an article about it in 2020, and they were striking out more than they ever had.
Jason points out that the Reds did pick up a left-handed reliever last night, so that's great to see.
I did not know that. I was following the Women's World Cup late last night, so I did not know that. So I'm happy to hear it.
Philip says disappointing draw earlier this morning.
Oh, it was dreadful. The way they're set up right now is not working, and they have not deviated from it. Their midfield, they're continuing to play a young woman named Andy Sullivan in there. Before the World Cup, I wrote an article that said Julie Ertz is the most important player for the United States women's national team. She had played midfield, a defensive midfield position in the 2019 season. She played there as well in the 2020 Olympics. She was pregnant last year, gave birth to her and her husband, Zach's first child, Madden. There was some question about whether she'd return to the team. She came back in April. She started to look better. She played well and extended periods for her club team, Angel City. And then she got to the World Cup training camp and they turned her into a defender. And she's been okay there. But meantime, the person they're playing in the midfield isn't good enough. And it's really hurting their performance. And they've now played this way for 3 games. And there's no way that they are winning the World Cup with Andy Sullivan playing at the what in soccer terms is called the number 6 position, defensive midfielder, holding midfielder. They just can't. They can't get enough. They don't break up enough attacks through the middle of the field, and they don't get enough forward momentum because she just doesn't get on the ball in the way that Ertz always could.
And they just had a draw with the Netherlands, which is being the Netherlands is not exactly a slouch of a program.
No, the Netherlands is very good. But that was a game where they could have won. They were good enough to win in that game in the final 20 minutes, and they didn't do it. They tied 1-1. Last night, they weren't good enough at all in any phase of the game. They were very poor. They played that game as if on a tightrope, knowing that a loss would eliminate them. Early in the game, they could see that the Netherlands or they could become aware that the Netherlands was destroying Vietnam and making it basically impossible for them to win the group. And so as a result, they wind up second in the group. Fozan Masri says he watched and Portugal deserves credit. The U.S. played well. No, I mean, Portugal deserves credit. They fought their tails off. They fought so hard to try to win that game in advance. There's no doubt. But the U.S. did not play well in any phase. They were not good defensively. They gave up too many chances. They were not good at goal. They were not going forward. And when they got chances, they didn't finish. And Fozan also said the Post saved them, and that the Post did. After the game, Carly Lloyd said that Post was the player of the match for the United States women's national team, and she was right.
You know, Fozan listens from Amman, Jordan.
Really?
Yes, it's amazing. We love it.
Good for him.
Fozan. We love Fozan, but absolutely, it's wild. But absolutely, yeah. We'll have to see where that goes on. It's not looking as winning that third straight as you talked about it's tougher than no matter who you are. There's a reason why it doesn't happen.
Yes, it's hard. And in their defense, they have had myriad injuries. 2 of the first 3 players on their front line. Soph Smith has played. She had a couple goals in the first game. She's been really she's been attacked defensively over the course of the last 2 games and has not responded well to that. She's been giving up the ball too much. They need to have a tactic where they play it to her and then she gives it back and then runs in behind them. They aren't doing that. They're just asking her to dribble through 2 and 3 defenders, and it's not working. But then Catarina Macario has been injured for more than a year. She did not recover from an ACL injury in time. The ACL happened in April 2022. Everybody thought she'd be back for the World Cup. She's not. And then Mallory Swanson, who had scored in 5 consecutive games for the U.S. women, in the 6th game, injured her knee and is not available. They lost Becky Sauerbrunn from their defense, Abby Dahlkemper from their defense, Sam Mewis from their midfield. They are missing a lot of very capable players, and it's taking its toll without a doubt. But there's still enough there for them to have won this group and to have gotten the good draw that it would have provided. Jim, I wrote an article before the Netherlands game that basically said that winning that Netherlands game or losing it or drawing it came down to this. If you win, you're a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. That's how the bracket was going to break for them. If you lose or draw, you are playing in an 8-9 game. Well, the U.S. played that 8-9 game last night because they drew the Netherlands. They played that 8-9 game, and now they're going into the tournament, into the bracket, playing against a virtual number 1 seed in Sweden, a team that's beaten them at each of the last 2 Olympics, that beat them in the 2015 World Cup. has their number and is playing better or at least as well as they ever have. So they put themselves in a really bad spot in the bracket.
We've got Mike DeCourcy with us right now and more coming up. When we come back, we've got to talk about the Big Ten Media Days that wrapped up last week and the Pac-12 and the Big 12. Who's going to come out of that fight? That's looking pretty evident more and more as the Pac-12 is kind of, I don't want to say imploding, but they're falling by the wayside. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Nothing really came out of Big Ten Media Days this year.
Well, I think what the commissioner said about expansion was notable. Obviously, the Northwestern circumstance was generally conversation.
How good a job did I can't think of his name right now.
David Braun.
How good a job did he do? I mean, he was excellent.
He did a good job. He really did. I don't think he misstepped very often.
No, I wanted to go up and shake his hand because that's a guy that's not used to being in that position, period. Not used to doing all that talking. Not used to being in front of that kind of audience, number two. And to handle it with the aplomb that he did, I was like uber impressed. I'm like.
He was really good. He really did a good job. There were some tricky things for him to navigate, too. He has to invest confidence in his team, and he did. But the oddity, but he also invested. He presented them as the model for the college athlete, and in terms of integrity and all of that sort of thing. I'm not going to say that that's not the case with a vast majority, but there's still the possibility. As I wrote, there's still the possibility that some of the athletes that are on that roster were participants in the hazing. It's possible. Who knows? No one individual even has been specified in terms of the athletes as having participated or perpetrated or whatever. So,
and some of the best questions were from Dustin Schutte.
Let's transition into this. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. It's August 1st, and that Tuesday means Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and Big Ten Network with us. Speaking of Big Ten Network, the Big Ten just wrapped up Big Ten football media days last week in Indianapolis, and a lot going on there, although not a lot of huge stories, although Northwestern came in with their own story. And in the break where I was talking about how impressed I was with the interim coach, how great a job he did of juggling the questions and dealing with the media and talking about as much as he could talk about, because what a position that puts him in. But, man, I thought he did an unbelievable job for someone who has very little experience doing.
Yeah, I thought he was terrific. He did a wonderful job. Remember, this guy's never been a head coach, David Braun. Been a coordinator, a position coach, all that sort of thing. Was a defensive tackle, so I'm not sure how much media attention he got at Winona State. But he did a fabulous job. He really did. There were some things that he sort of had to say that left you scratching your head a little bit about his belief in the integrity of his group of athletes, even when it was pointed out to him, but it's possible some of these young men were participants in the hazing that's been, that's led to multiple lawsuits and precipitated the departure of the previous head coach. He didn't back down from that. So I think he's investing the most trust he can in his players to do the right things over the course of the next 4 or 5 months. He talked about a lot of different subjects, and he was up there. I taped the whole thing. He was up there for quite a while. I have it taped out at 45 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wow.
So that's a lot of time. Northwestern, I'll give Northwestern credit for, with a lot of national media in the audience. Nicole Arbach was there from The Athletic, Pat Forty from SI, me from the Sporting News, many others were there asking questions, listening to his answers. And so Northwestern didn't shut that thing down in 10 minutes or whatever. They let the whole thing play out and let him take the number of questions that was necessary before it got repetitive. I thought that from the standpoint of the media, they got everything they could have asked for out of that session. And he handled it all really well. I give him a lot of credit for that.
And I noticed he had a bigger audience than Ryan Day, who was speaking at the same time. That never happens.
No.
If Ohio State or Michigan are speaking, they have, without question, the largest breakout audiences. And I was standing there looking, I'm like, oh my God, there's a few more people over there at Northwestern's deal than here. So he also beat Ohio State.
There you go. That may be the one, not the only victory they'll get. I'm not saying that, but they are not beating the Buckeyes this year, if indeed they play them at any point. And I fortunately, the Sporting News was double teaming. I had my partner Bill Bender there on that day, so he was covering Buckeye country, and I was able to take care of Northwestern's big story. So we were covered on both bases. Bill does a great job for Sporting News on college football. We're really lucky to have him. And if you're a football fan, a college football fan, and you're not reading Bill Bender, you're missing out.
Absolutely. And make sure you give him a follow as well. Dustin Schutte, God bless his heart. Were you there when he asked Brett Bielema? He had a question. He asked him about if he had seen the Barbie movie.
That was his question. I did hear about that. But I did not. I know Dustin got a lot of. I wasn't there on Thursday. I was only there on Wednesday. So I saw a lot of tweets about Dustin's interesting questions on day 2. I wasn't aware he had asked the Barbie question, but that was great. Let me say, I went to the Barbie movie on Saturday. It is fabulous. It is a terrific movie.
Oh man, I cannot wait to let him know. I'll let him know.
It is funny. It is fun. It is great. And it's well worth your time.
There was another question he asked too that I can't think of right now. Daggone it. Just things that I could never ask. These are questions that I will not ask. But that's why we have him for the.
That reminds me of Mike Krzyzewski's penultimate post-game press conference in San Francisco after they defeated Arkansas in the Elite Eight in 2022. And I was in the press conference, and every North Carolina guy or lady who was there covering danced around the inevitable question, because Duke was scheduled to meet the winner of Carolina versus St. Peter's. Now, this wasn't Carolina versus Villanova or Carolina versus Kentucky. This is Carolina versus St. Peter's. So it was pretty obvious there was a really good chance that they were going to play Carolina in the Final Four for the first time in history, and nobody was asking the question. And so I said, guys, don't get mad at me for this. But I got to ask, if you have the opportunity to play Carolina in the Final Four, what would that mean? And Mike Krzyzewski said, basically, and I can't remember the exact words, but he basically said I had to go to bed without my supper is what he said, because I shouldn't have asked it. But so sometimes you got to ask those questions. And I sat there and waited for someone with a vested interest as someone who covers Carolina for,
but that question makes sense. Why that one should have been asked,
but they didn't. Neither TV nor print nor internet nor radio asked that question, even though there were lots of Carolina people out there in San Francisco.
They would have rather you asked about the Barbie movie, I'm sure.
I think Kay might have taken that question a little bit better than, but he actually his answer was good humored, and of course we'd known each other for more than 30 years, and he definitely dissed the question without dissing me, and it made for a really good little cider piece that I did.
Speaking of the Big Ten and expansion, of course, next year UCLA USC will be a part of Media Days, which that'll be wild. But speaking of the Pac-12 and the Big 12, the Big 12 is amazing. They have done such a phenomenal job on reinventing themselves, on not trying to overdo themselves. When they lose a valuable piece, they add a piece that may not be as valuable, but they're not losing as much as people think, and they're still growing. Whereas the Pac-12, who has the West Coast, who had Los Angeles TV market, amongst other things, they are just imploding day by day. And the Big 12, with zero big time TV markets, big time TV markets, they've been able to continue to grow, and it's been amazing.
I can't imagine that I will wait to put a final pronouncement on this, but the Pac-12 has imperiled itself over the course of the last 6 months in ways that I can't quite understand. And of course, it's imperiled itself through the last decade with ineffective leadership throughout. The Pac-12 network never really got distribution right, and that hurt them. It was always off. That hurt them really badly. The fact that the Pac-12 networks never really got distributed in the way they needed to. Their opportunity to partner, they declined the opportunity to partner. Look, SEC partnered with ESPN. ACC partnered with ESPN. Big Ten partnered with Fox. Every one of those networks has been successful, and every one of them had a major media partner. Pac-12, no, we don't need that. We know better. And the Pac-12 networks have not been successful. And they've done these sorts of things throughout. And then instead of responding aggressively and intuitively and forcefully to the loss of UCLA and USC and saying, okay, look, San Diego State is not either one of those programs, but it's a top 25 market. It's a place people love going to. So nobody in Corvallis is getting mad you're sending them to San Diego for a road trip. They made the championship game of the NCAA men's basketball tournament this year. The championship game, number 2 in the country. And they still haven't invited them. What are they waiting for? How badly can you fumble this? You've got teams like UNLV in a market. Baseball's trying to get there. NHL is there. NBA's wondering about it. NFL is there. But you could get UNLV and you're not there? What are you doing? I don't understand the Pac-12 and how they think. I really don't. And if they go away after the Big 12, like you said, no major media markets in the core group. I guess Kansas, because it's close to Kansas City. I think you'd have to give them that. But that's the most major, and it's like 32nd in the country. And then you add now, of course, Houston, which is a top 5 market. Cincinnati, which is probably 30-ish ballpark. I'd have to look it up, but it's around there. Orlando is around there. These are all, they've added a lot more bigger markets than they had. But when they lost Texas and Oklahoma, they were pronounced dead. A decade ago, more than a decade ago, when it looked like the Pac-12 was going to take Oklahoma and Texas, the Big 12 was pronounced dead. They've been pronounced dead by major media members twice in the last dozen years, and yet here they are still flourishing, while the Pac-12, which has existed all these years and is the Conference of Champions and all of that, can't figure out something as simple as inviting San Diego State to be part of your league when you've lost your other two Southern California teams.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with the Pac-12 because the Big 12 is going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to say, hey, we'll take this. It's like the core of America, basically, mid-America, where everybody loves their sports. They're going to get enough. They don't have to be number one as long as they're number something. And they're going to end up being number 3, probably behind the Big Ten and the
that
SEC.
way because the Pac-12, look, the Pac-12 with the markets they have should have been able to supersede what the Big 12 is getting in terms of revenue and distribution. They should have been able to, but they haven't managed that to date. And their members, it's obvious their members don't want to be in the Big 12, the ones that remain. Colorado was okay with it because they were there before, and they haven't had much success in the Pac-12. Their football team has been horrendous in the Big 12, in the Pac-12 for the most part. Basketball team, pretty good under Tad Boyle, better than they probably were in the Big 12 before. But football, of course, the driver, they've been very poor. So they didn't have much to lose. But nobody else really wants to leave, but they also don't want to be paid 75 cents on the dollar to just use an estimate. They want to make Big 12 money, and they should be able to. Why that hasn't happened to date, I don't know. But I think if they'd been more proactive a year ago or 2 years ago, more aggressive in the way that the Big 12 has been, Brett Yormark, the one thing you can say, he's been really aggressive, and he's been very proactive. And has not allowed things to happen to him. And things are going to happen. I mean, they did not happen to him on the Texas-Oklahoma front. There's a chance you're still going to lose members. Let's just say the ACC decided they wanted West Virginia. West Virginia would have to think about that because it's better proximity. They wouldn't have to make the trip to Lubbock. They could fly down to Miami. That'd be like their furthest trip. So right now, they'd have to at least think about it. They may not do it, but those kinds of things could come up. But it's obvious the Big 12 is positioned to deal with it. And as I said, the Pac-12 should have been on the phone to San Diego State and making an offer the minute UCLA said goodbye. As soon as the Trojans and Bruins were on that figurative private plane to Big Ten country, San Diego State should have been on the Pacific Coast Highway into the Pac-12, and it hasn't happened.
And the Big 12 is not done. Apparently, they're looking at adding a few other teams.
They're looking at
potentially Arizona State, Utah,
yes,
and UConn. Which,
yes, as I said, for those 3 Pac-12 schools, it comes down to if somebody puts a contract in front of them, and it could happen as soon as today. Somebody puts a contract in front of them that says basically you're going to make Big 12 money. They're signing it. They don't want to be in the Big 12. They want to be in the Pac-12, but they want to make that level of money. They know they're not making Big 10 and SEC money, but they think they should be at a parity with the Big 12. And look, if it's a buck or two lower, they're still signing. But if it's a lot lower, and nobody's going to be able to see their games or whatever. I mean, because I don't know what networks they're talking to right now. If there's any sort of gap in either of those two elements, then at that point, they might start to think about becoming Big 12 members if the Big 12 can write that check. They've written that check to Colorado. They've said what everybody else is already in the league is going to get, you're going to get. So if they say that to Utah and the 2 Arizona schools, whereas the Pac-12 said, well, we can't quite get to that number, or we can't come close to that number, then they might be traveling to the Big 12 as well. If that doesn't happen, then you have UConn as a possible how many would it be? I think it would be 14 at that point once Texas and Oklahoma clear out. I've lost count now with all the machinations.
14, I believe.
It'd be 14, yeah, because they're now that they have Colorado, that's technically the 15th, but the other two are clearing out after this season. So that would be the 14th, and UConn would have to really seriously think about that. I'm writing about that for the Sporting News.
That's the only thing that I think has saving grace is a parachute to UConn, because they're a football. They still have a football team.
They do. You want to call it that?
They're one of the few that does in that area. It's like, wow. And they're they're on an island out there. And they need something to kind of re-energize the sports program. I think
they just won the national championship.
Well, I don't mean that in basketball. I don't mean that. I meant overall. It's for the entire school. You've got the UConn men's and women's basketball, which is, of course, awesome, incredible programs. I meant the rest of it. They just seemed like they've been left behind as far as once the conference thing kind of left them beside themselves. Their football has never been great. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of hard to grow that when you're mirrored in mediocrity. Believe we may have lost Mike. There we go. Got him back one more time. Mike, what's up next for you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm working today on that piece I mentioned about UConn and the wisdom of moving to the Big 12 if that's put on their table. I think they're a second choice, but it could, as I said, if the Pac-12 relatively soon puts a reasonable television contract offer in front of what they call the four corner schools, Arizona State, Utah, and of course they've already lost one corner in Colorado. But if they put a decent offer in front of the other three, I think they're going to stay in the league. So at that point, it might come to UConn. It probably would come to UConn, and they'd have to make a hard choice because their best success has been in the Big East. It has not been. They have not been as successful elsewhere. So we'll see what they decide, or if they get the opportunity to decide. And then the Women's World Cup.
That's right. Still going on. Still hope. Make sure you give Mike a follow either on Twitter, or make sure you catch his content from the Sporting News. Thank you, sir. Look forward to it again next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Mike DeCourcy joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right, Jim, we go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. It's August 1st. Appreciate you being with us as always. Thanks a lot. Just finished up with Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News. Talking to Crowded Hoosier up next. And I was always looking forward to that. Yeah, I just finished up with Mike on expansion and all that goes on with that. At the annual Big Ten Media Days last week, the last time without USC and UCLA, they did the Athletic did a survey. More than a dozen of the conference's top players to get their thoughts on several topics. Starting with a stadium other than their own they enjoy playing in. Kate Stover, a tight end from Ohio State, his answer was Beaver Stadium. It's a big place. It's loud. The fans are really, really into it. It's a really fun place to play for us. It's going to be interesting to see if any of the Ohio State guys say Michigan or vice versa. Let's see. Chris Altman Bell, a wide receiver from Minnesota, says, even though they're rivals, I love Iowa's field. Kinnick Stadium, the atmosphere, just everything about it is awesome. The Wave, I love their tradition with the Wave now. It's awesome. The energy they bring and how intense it is there. It's great. Let's see. Raven Spawn Ford from tight end from Minnesota says he really likes Nebraska Stadium. Obviously, they have, I don't even know how many sellouts in a row. It's really cool environment with a really passionate fan base. Last year, we got to go there, and it's just a sea of red every time you look up. Along with that, Kinnick is up there too. A Penn State whiteout was also a very cool experience, cool atmosphere. It was definitely like one of those once-in-a-lifetime cool experiences for me. Talia Tagovailoa, the Maryland's quarterback, says, in terms of loudest, Penn State. We have our loudspeakers on our Thursday practice to try and make it sound like the crowd noise and stuff like that. But when you're really in the game and you're trying to communicate to a receiver that's 15, 20 yards away and he can't hear you, that's when it starts getting really difficult. I think that's the hardest place I've ever played in. Mema in Gametta, a linebacker from Wisconsin, says Michigan State is pretty cool. I love how they get the crowd into it with the Spartans. What is your profession, chant, or whatever it is? It is cool how the whole crowd gets into it. Yeah, good luck with that this year. They're not looking too well. The most unique NIL opportunity that they have had. Tagovailoa responded, this suit. It's actually my first fitted suit ever. It's got my name inside. So there you go. Cal Halliday, a linebacker from Michigan State, said we had a team one, and I thought it was really good because it was for the whole team. Everybody was able to get a little bit of money in their pockets. Not everybody is on full scholarship or whatnot, so I think that helps those guys too a lot. Very nice. Span Ford says the stuff with our collective has been really cool because we get to be around a lot of the local companies, local businesses that maybe we've grown up being around but never really understood. That's a good point. And it introduces them to people for the future as well. So great business opportunities. Very astute. Olu Fashionow, an offensive tackle from Penn State, says that he was able to get LASIK last month. It wasn't really something that was on my mind, but I had the opportunity to pursue it, so he took it. He's extremely glad he was able to get it. I could probably use that. Let's see, Stover again. I've had the opportunity to do some really cool NIL deals that have really helped me and my family's farm. John Deere Ag Pro sent out a combine for us to run during my bye week We're not necessarily huge grain farmers, so we're used to smaller size combine, and they sent out a big giant one. I spent my bye week in that thing, and it was really, really awesome. And then FS Envision Seed Corn, a seed company out of Illinois, basically partners with us, and it's where we get our seed corn from. We've had really good luck with all that stuff. It's really helped me not just make connections, but it's really helped the family farm a lot financial-wise. So there's some stuff that you don't hear about NIL-wise that's going on out there in the heartland. Mike Sanristil, a DB from Michigan. We were able to fly in the helicopters with the National Guard. That's not something you can just wake up and choose to do. It was a real cool opportunity. That was last summer. We did that. If I could do it again, I definitely would. A lot of guys were scared. A lot of guys were, falling asleep because they were nervous. How do you fall asleep because you're nervous? I don't sleep when I'm nervous. That's the last thing I do. If I'm nervous, it's because I'm worried about something. If I'm worried about something, I'm not going to be able to sleep because I'm worried about it. Crazy. Let's see. Chris Jenkins, defensive lineman from Michigan. We did a group, like not a play date, but like a kids' fun session at the big house where you had bouncy houses. What the hell? Yeah, I don't know what that one's about. Boring. Jeff Sims, QB from Nebraska. The John Deere one is probably one people are raving about. I think all my opportunities that I've gotten are a blessing. I don't really look at any of them as higher than the other. I've got ones with, I don't want to go into all of them. He laughs. The coolest thing I've seen is guys that have a passion for something being able to find an NIL deal for that. Let's see. Hudson Card from Purdue. He says he's had some opportunities up there, and he think for me it's just cool to give back to the community, especially to the kids out there. He's been able to run a couple of camps. Road trip with the best hotel or the worst? Aaron Lewis from Rutgers says, I'm going to give you the honest answer. I can't remember what exactly hotel it is or the team, but every time a hotel doesn't have a Netflix for me to fall asleep to, I don't even know what to do. There you go. I thought there maybe be some cooler stories than that. Oh, here you go. Which of your team's coaches is most likely to get a 15-yard penalty for arguing a call? Greg Schiano from Lewis. James Franklin. Yeah. Forrest, how are you, sir? Appreciate you jumping on. Pete as well. Still up in Shakopee, Minnesota. Thought he had moved back to Indiana. Van says, I did not see the movie, but heard about Kendall, I guess. He wants to be the king of Kendall. Maybe that is Kendall. Makes sense. We were talking about the Barbie movie earlier. Too bad Dustin Schute's not here to join in on that one. Man, he would love that. Yeah, what was that second question he asked? Daggone it. Fruit Loops. He asked about the Barbie, and daggone it. It was another classic Dustin question. Man. Well, too bad John, the producer's not here either. He would know. But we'll figure that out tomorrow. And definitely when Dustin's back on Thursday. But yeah, he had some goofy ones. We'll have to pull those out for you and pull those up. Looking forward to that. Let's see. What else do we have going on? Yeah, the Reds and the Cubs playing a series right now. That continues today. Hopefully the Big Red Machine can continue to roll that. Indiana basketball waiting to see if they're going to not only fulfill this roster, but start filling out the 24 roster, as they do not have any recruits signed for that class just yet. But that has ceased to be a worry for people. You just got to stop with that. It's not the sudden thing the way it used to be. I think players are waiting longer on purpose because they can. Why would you not? Why would you not? Another offer that did go out recently for the 2025, a 4-star wing, Amari Allen. He plays for IMG Academy and Wisconsin Playground on the AAU circuit. He's a 4-star wing, ranked number 64 in the overall composite rankings, number 12 small forward. Indiana also extended an offer to his AAU teammate Kai Rogers yesterday as well. Allen averaged 13 points on 44% shooting. We've got to take a quick break. Chronic Hoosier joins us up next. Back with that and much more right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Holy crap. Good day, sir.
Jim, what's going on?
You know it, man. I need to stop by there and investigate some things.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, it's every day. Every day is just crazy right now.
Every day. How are you doing, man?
Doing well. Doing really well.
What's new? Anything?
Last day of summer for the kids. Looks like Zach and I are linking back up tomorrow for a new pod on the Mind Your Banners. And it's about it. Trying to figure out when I can get out and go have some fun myself.
When's that?
Probably as soon as the kids hit the streets tomorrow morning. I think I'm going to try and go squeeze a couple hours in on the lake and the kayak, and then go take the motorcycle out for a little bit of a drive and try to have a little fun before the stuff gets too hectic and the weather starts getting a little nasty on us later this week.
Big Dave Martin in Harrisonville, Missouri. Dave, you live there now?
All right, guys. There goes my alarm. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, August 1st. Thanks a lot for joining us. We appreciate you greatly. Jim Coyle with you as always. Brought to you by Rusty Gator down in Bedford, Indiana. Joined now by our good friend Chronic Hoosier. Chronic, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. What is this Rusty Gator you speak of? This is new to me.
It's a former Courtroom Sports Grill that we have up there.
Okay. I know this. I know Courtroom.
Yeah, it's the same place. Going to have to make that change, as I just noticed. So I'll have to make that today. That's something I'll have to do, as I'm writing that note down. But so there you go. Yeah, a little Cajun cuisine.
Love it. Love me some Cajun food.
Got some good Cajun, all fresh, handmade stuff, man. Good deal down there in the former Courtroom Sports Grill there, and right in downtown Bedford.
Right on the square.
Right on the metropolitan area, baby. How's Chronic doing?
Doing well. Doing really well, man. We are staring down the end of Bloomington summer, at least as far as it relates to the community school kids. They go back tomorrow, so had to wake up my brood a little bit early today just to be the jerk dad and get them prepared for that alarm. Other than that, just enjoying the first day of a beautiful first day of August here in Bloomington.
Yeah, it just disappeared. This summer was gone in a hurry.
Yes, it was. They seem to be, they accelerate. The older you get, the faster they tend to go by. This one was relatively low key by our standards and still just went by at light speed. So shaking my head where it went, but still trying to enjoy as much as we can outside here. The mornings are getting a little cooler and the nights are getting a little darker a little sooner right now. But moving vans are all about town. It's officially at least turnover season, so ready to get the kids back, ready to get the energy back in town, and certainly ready to fire up the old local economy with all the resources that they tend to pump into this community.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got football season coming. But it's not just football. It's soccer. It's just fall in and of itself. But there's nothing that is more electrical than football. Just that game day, the smells that are in the air, the crowd, when you can see people parked for so far. And it doesn't matter if, even when teams don't do well, like Indiana's program has not exactly been great. It would be much better if they were competitive, but it's still such a great, fun environment. I don't understand why more people do not just take it in, man. The college football, there's just something fun and magical about it. Indiana, I really wish they would get a little bit better support, even though they don't always win on the field. But man, just go enjoy a college football game.
No doubt. It's, for me, it's the same thing. It's multifold. I think part of it is I absolutely love the energy of a live audience, especially one that's all pulling in the same direction. There's really nothing like it. It's visceral. You feel it. It just permeates every pore. And when the energy is high, it's literally one of my favorite drugs. I just love that feeling. But beyond that, just the chance to get out and spend some good time with family and friends. And, the ability to reconnect, that tailgating provides. There's folks that I may not see 9 months out of the year, but we might as well be neighbors when you get us back out there at the lot or in the fields. Old roommates, college friends that come back down. It's just a great opportunity to reconnect. Who doesn't love grilling and drinking outside? I mean, it's about as Hoosier gets. So I am absolutely looking forward to that here in the coming weeks, and a return to that, and hopefully a return to some winning football.
Yeah, and you know what? We know so little about Indiana's football team this year. Maybe this might be the least. This is probably the least I feel is knowledgeable about a team, and I can't even tell you. As far as this is really a quarterback battle, I really believe that one this time for the first time ever. I think that they actually are battling, and I think that there's going to be improvement on the offensive line because it can't be worse. So they actually have a shot. But until we get to see them play, and I don't know that seeing them play against Ohio State is going to be the greatest barometer, but until we see them play those first 4 games, this team has a shot to actually hit 5 or 6 wins.
You would think that's kind of the common sentiment every year. I think, as you mentioned, though, this year is just as big of a question mark as I can remember in recent years. The QB spot takes up a big part of the discussion when talking about those uncertainties, those variables. For me, I'm looking at the running game, generally speaking. how's this line going to perform? How effective can this backfield be? But more importantly, how can they function as a unit and just establish some modicum, just a baseline running game that can, eat up some clock, move the chains, hopefully, but more than anything, just provide a little balance to an offense that in the last couple of years has seemed to be entirely too predictable and therefore too easy to defend. So, the ability to establish the run early, and I don't know how easy that's going to be with the Buckeyes kicking the season off, I think is going to be paramount for the rest of the season. Because as we've seen often, when you become a one-dimensional offense, it really puts a lot of stress on everybody, not the least of which being the line and the quarterback and keeping the quarterback healthy. And as Indiana fans are all too familiar, that's proven to be something rather terminal in years past. So if they can avoid that this season, I think that's probably going to be the greatest step in the direction they need to be moving. And I think honestly, it's going to start with being able to run the football.
Absolutely, and that's the one thing we do know. They have talent there, whether it's Josh Henderson or Jalen Lucas. So that's something they can do. Pressure, is Tom Allen feeling pressure right now? Or is this team under less pressure right now for whatever reason?
That's a great question. I personally, I don't think Tom Allen necessarily should feel any internally. I think the structure of his contract, the buyout, and everything else just makes it untenable, given Indiana's financial situation, to even contemplate that at the moment. All that said, we saw how quickly momentum can disappear. Coming off the 2020 season, and just how quickly the excitement can turn to apathy. And as I've long said, that's the biggest threat to a program is apathy. When fans just stop caring, you love to see it when the fans are excited, but the opposite side of that coin is anger. And so, at least so long as they're angry, they're angry, they're still engaged. It's when they stop caring whatsoever that you're in trouble. And that's something that I think this program probably too frequently flirts with. But I think that's also something that can be recaptured, that you can turn. It just takes some wins. As we talked about last week, I think the foundation has to be the student section. Just by virtue of its size, its proximity to the program, I think it's one of those things where if you can get a spark going early on, just be competitive against Ohio State. Don't get your doors blown off, and then rack up some wins real quick in the non-conference portion with the Sycamores. You got the Cardinals up in Lucas Oil, and then Akron back in Bloomington. If Indiana can get into the teeth of Big Ten season when Maryland, or when we go to visit Maryland, with 3 wins, and that may be a tough pull with the Louisville game on schedule. You've got a tailwind at that point, though. And then if you can ride that momentum and carry it into October as the weather starts to turn a little bit, and perhaps those tailgate fields are a little less attractive at 7, 8 a.m. On a gloomy day, and you can keep some butts in the seat, mess around and find out and see where that goes. But I think it's got to start with the spark early. The schedule's always set up like this for Indiana, with the exception of these Big Ten openers that they love to sprinkle in now. But I think that's going to be everything for this team, because as we have lived and died, it's all a matter of getting that 6th win and achieving bowl eligibility. And I know that is the bare minimum for most programs, but honestly, for Indiana, that's the bar right now, and that has been the bar for all the talk about Big Ten and national championships and BCS and everything else. Just get above 500, get to it, and then go from there. And I think in this day and age of the portal and NIL and everything else, at the end of the day, if you're selling a program to players, obviously they're all looking for a springboard to that next level. but winning is attractive. Kids don't play to lose. They want to win ball games. So I think you just set the table for future success when you can get back on track to that 500 plus goal.
Yeah, I think that Indiana fans will be just fine with the 6-6 season, and getting to a bowl. And you know what? They probably should be if things continue with expansion and things like that. Where did I just see this? Philip says that Oregon, Washington, Clemson, and Florida State rumored to be joining the Big Ten. Well, there's rumors abound, of course. The Oregon-Washington rumor has been floating for a while because it would make sense with UCLA and USC coming in to add a little bit more of a Western flavor. We probably know the Big Ten is probably not quite done. I don't know that they'll add 4 more teams. That would get them up to 18. Do we need an 18-team conference?
I don't know that the number matters so much as it does to continue to move in the direction of the game. And when you see the fracturing of all the leagues across the country and the way in which they're being gobbled up and basically portioned off, I think the Big Ten has to remain in that, kind of like a game of hungry hippos. Basically, whenever there's new assets on the board, you've got to find a way to grow your portfolio and stay competitive. And this is basically a game of hungry hippos for television screens, if we're being totally honest. Which programs bring your conference the most screens, the most eyeballs that you can sell advertising airtime on. That's literally what this entire thing boils down to. And the Big Ten has long, tried to distance itself by selecting only the more academically elite programs, by holding itself to higher standards as far as collegiate institutions go. But I think when you see the Pac-12 unraveling before our eyes right now, I think it would be folly to believe that the Big Ten is in any position just to stay static, to rest on its laurels and not explore opportunities for expansion. Because quite frankly, if you don't gobble up some of those schools, the SEC or the Big 12 is going to. And, you're only as strong as your most recent media rights deal. And, the Big Ten has positioned itself well to really, to pace the field as far as those matters are concerned. All that being said, though, that can change in a week with conference realignment going on around us. And I would imagine the Big Ten is actively involved and charting its path forward in this brave new era. But I would not be the least bit surprised if there's not 2 or 4 more members of the Big Ten by the time football season kicks off this year, quite frankly.
Well, not only that, the Oregon-Washington is a perfect fit because of having added UCLA and USC. That kind of shores up, the Pacific Northwest and gives you Seattle and Portland, for God's sake, TV markets. And let's be honest, that's a big part of what this is about. And then if the Clemson and Florida State, while it might sound a little outlandish, it's not, because they're mired in a crap TV rights deal. Now, how they could get out of that's a whole different story with their deal locked into 2036. But if they had also Clemson and Florida State, well, now you're coast to coast, corner to corner, minus the Southwest corner. But the Big Ten would just be unbeatable from then on, as far as a machine, not necessarily on the field, but as far as making money for their schools. They're going to be unbeatable. You're going to have every major TV market that there is: New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Washington, Seattle, Portland.
All you're missing in that scenario is Texas. Yeah, quite honestly.
Yeah, and they're probably not going to get a Texas school, and they're probably okay with that since they have every damn thing else.
Yeah, no, I think that's the board game right there. It's almost like a game of Risk. This this is what it's come down to now. And like I said, the Big Ten is well positioned to really dominate in that realm. Now, at the end of the day, the product's going to have to back it up. But that's the thing about college football is the loyalty is off the charts when it comes to brands, if you will. And good or bad, college fans they tune in. They always do, and probably no better example than Indiana, quite honestly. But that's the world we now live in, and I think there's a lot shifting underfoot as we speak. And every time I refresh my browser, I just keep waiting to see the news, because you get the sense right now that those moves are imminent and probably being discussed long before the public was even aware of these things. A lot of folks have seen this coming for some time, but as the numbers get printed and the offer sheets are distributed, only then are the decision makers, the boards of trustees, the presidents, the athletic directors of these schools, forced to confront the reality and make the choices. And I think you're likely to see a lot of the dominoes drop here in real short order.
Think about this, man. Think about a Big Ten basketball tournament with all the Big Ten members currently, adding UCLA, USC, Washington, Oregon, Florida State, Clemson. Think about that.
Yeah, I mean you could be having the Big Ten tournament at the at least the basketball tournament at the Forum. You could have
football.
It will,
and it would happen. That exactly would happen at some point. But it'll take an entire week just for the Big Ten basketball tournament, or will you have to qualify to get into that?
No, those are all very real possibilities in the very near future, quite honestly. And full well, as we saw with the addition of Rutgers and Maryland, Big Ten leadership is absolutely going to interject itself into that market as quickly as possible, just to stake its flag in that new territory. So it's certainly going to be a brave new world. One it's almost wholly unrecognizable from the one that at least I grew up in, but that's where things are today. And I think for a school like Indiana, I think there's a ton of opportunity there for kids, recruits that previously didn't have a lot of exposure. And streaming media, satellite media has certainly expanded those horizons. But when your local team is now competing in the conference, it certainly provides a lot more exposure opportunities for a Midwestern school like Indiana to get itself in front of the eyeballs of kids coast to coast, like you said, north, south, east, and west. Dang near the entire country is fixing to be Big Ten country if this proceeds as it seems like it's about to.
Yeah, can you imagine Kalen DeBoer back in the Big Ten but against Indiana? That would not be fun for Hoosier fans.
That's that's one of those scenarios.
Can you imagine if that had happened and soon enough for Kalen DeBoer and Michael Penix Jr. to play against Indiana?
Yeah, that's probably pushing the timetable a little bit too rapidly. I can't think of a lot of opportunities, at least in the football world, where Indiana has ever found itself in that situation. There's certainly been transfers, there have been defections over the years. I don't know that any would strike a nerve so raw as the one you just described there. But those are all very, very real possibilities very soon. It would seem, and I think that is when you talk about pressure and that's really where I think that materializes fully for Indiana and the football program in particular, simply because you've got to put a product now that's deserving of the national audience. You've seen that you've been able to attract the talent. You've got to be able to retain it, and at the end of the day, I think that's a multitude of factors go into that. The resources are being harder and harder to cry poor on, simply because the gobsmacking amount of money that's changing hands in this new alignment. But I think strategic vision, leadership is going to go a long way, and we'll just see if Indiana has what it takes on those fronts in order to make the necessary moves to make itself competitive and a meaningful participant rather than just a backbencher also ran that's out there just to fill up some schedule slots for these opponents.
Yeah, gobsmacking, one of those words I just love to hear.
And it is, honestly. I mean, you look at where Indiana's financial situation was at the onset of the Big Ten compared to where it finds itself now, and it's just absolutely unreal that in such a short amount of time you can pump so many tens of millions of dollars into a department, all on its own. It's really it's nothing short of amazing if we're being honest. All that being said, though, I think that just highlights the importance of your institution's leadership and the way in which they choose to allocate those resources, and how they account for those expenditures. Because at the end of the day, you've always got to have an accounting, and then you're going to have to reckon with what ROI you received on those. And I think Indiana is very much at a position now where it's going to start sharpening its pencil and looking at those very elements and just figuring out what the best path is, because there's a ton of money. You got to get some results.
Well, and Indiana is going to have to make a commitment to football. They are going to have to make a serious commitment to football. We did just see oh, daggone, I just talked about it earlier, and I moved past the comment.
The weight room?
Yeah, the weight room.
I found that one a little surprising, honestly. Our weight room is not entirely that old. I understand the pace at which these things move, and what's shiny and new today is old and decrepit tomorrow.
Caleb. But it's not about it being old, or it's a great weight facility. They share it with other programs, but to me, what's the difference? They get priority over that weight room and can go in there at any time, and there's enough machinery and weights that you're not waiting on anybody. But this is one of those things I'm like, okay, is this really the big deal? There's probably a lot of other things I think that they could probably do, but they are one of the only programs that doesn't have, if not the only one that doesn't have their own facility in the Big Ten, at least. But more importantly, what about they share the indoor facility that could use a coat of paint and some lights in the worst way? That is the most drab looking indoor facility that I've ever been in or seen, and it just needs to be freshened up.
Yeah, I was surprised that wasn't the move, quite honestly. And I understand that that's probably a much higher ticket item than a new weight room. But it has long been discussed that's Indiana's greatest shortcoming right now, is the lack of an additional indoor facility. And you talk about the scheduling and just all the challenges that presents. Not unlike the weight room, you've got virtually every other varsity sport having to compete for time inside Mellencamp right now. And that's just one of those things where, you can condition in a multitude of different ways that don't involve weight racks and benches and plates and whatnot. But when the weather's foul outside, you've got to have room to move. You've got to have room to practice. And I would not be the least bit surprised if that's the next major capital project you see on 17th Street, because they've pretty much rehabbed every building or replaced every building, every facility, all the way across the athletics complex. Now it's just a matter of getting a little bit more indoor space. And as you mentioned, probably shining it up a little bit, because Lord knows everybody likes shiny new things. And Mellencamp is about as far from that as you're going to find on 17th Street right now. So I would not be surprised if that's coming in short order in the immediate future.
And that's just something that Indiana just has to do. I mean, we look at Northwestern with the brand new facilities they have on the lake there, Purdue with the brand new facilities that they have. And those are the type of teams that Indiana has to at least keep pace with. I mean, the press box at Memorial Stadium, that thing is 30 years past old. Not that I'm trying to get a crack on Indiana, the facilities. I'm not. I'm just talking about the things that they're going to have to do to get up into this modern age.
Yeah, and I'd go a step farther, and I've been in the press box for a good part of my life. We've been able to go up there and visit at various points. You
ever walk that? You ever walk that thing?
I have many times. I think the one thing that you see them slowly starting to pepper in that's probably paramount. It's the journalists are getting in free, brother. They're not padding the bottom line, and obviously you've got to accommodate that set. But I think more than anything, look at the emergence of suites and just the upper echelon access areas.
That's what that's why I can't understand why. I know that you have to have a great product, but if they would build it, they'll come. You have to build it. I look at Louisville. Howard Schnellenberger was, he was on them about building a stadium way back in the 80s when they really sucked. But he just stayed on it, and they eventually did. The suites. Bloomington is not a metropolitan town, but you're not with I-69. You're a lot closer to Indianapolis now. And those luxury suites, I'm just shocked that has not been something that they've gone to already.
Yeah, and that's where the game's going. It's the tiered access levels, the premium pricing you pay in order to move up those ladders. And whether it's at the basketball stadium, football, those are just some key elements from the fan experience. But particularly the boosters, the donor class that you really have to cultivate. And Indiana just doesn't have a lot of opportunities there, quite honestly. So, I don't know that there's a lot of opportunity to do something like that in assembly. Memorial could certainly use some rehab with its existing infrastructure. But at the end of the day, I mean, you see it in the south end zone terrace that they built. You see it in the north end zone. Just trying to find space where you can create those types of areas and vis-a-vis the revenue that they bring. And I think that's when you're a program like Indiana, we can talk about what percentage of capacity and how that impacts your spending across the board, both in the program and then all across 17th Street, the other varsity sports. That's really where you see this going right now, because we can talk about the $800 seats for a basketball game in the secondary market, but keep in mind the university doesn't see any of that. Those are all going to the scalpers or the people that are putting their seats up for sale. Whereas when you're selling $250 tickets at face for some of those premium areas, that's when the department's actually cashing in on the excitement rather than the people that are already holding those $35, $45, $65 tickets.
So what's up next for you, man?
Jumping on the pod with Zach Osterman tomorrow. We're going to fire up the first Mind Your Banner since I think Big Ten tournament basketball time. Kind of took a step back there and let Tyler Tuckman capably fill in that role now that he's moved on. Still weird seeing it's that time of year where you see familiar voices, bylines that you've been following for years as these kids were students and then move into the professional ranks, and then they graduate, and all of a sudden I see Tyler and he's reporting on Iowa, and it's just such a trip. I couldn't be happier for him.
Where did he go?
I think Des Moines Register, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Covering the Hawkeyes, yeah. But you see this every year. It's one of the great things about having such an incredibly strong media program at IU, is just some absolutely terrific and talented, media members who just absolutely crush the beat while they're here, and then they go on and get big jobs in the professional ranks. So. No, it's one where he slid in and did that seat better justice than I ever could here. And now that he's gone, Zach and I are going to link back up and probably preview a little bit of IU football. Maybe talk about some some Longview IU basketball, and just see where the conversation takes us. But looking forward to getting back with Zach, and looking forward to kicking my kids out the door tomorrow, man. 7:15. They need to be on the road. Got 2 high schoolers now. It's crazy.
I hear you, man. I hear you. Opening up with Ohio State. Of course, we have plenty of time until we get to that. But that's 5th time in 7 seasons Indiana opens up with a Big Ten opponent. That is, I'm not a homer, but that's BS for any program, much less a program like Indiana. And the Big Ten has done Indiana 0 favors, because it's not been Maryland that they've opened up with or Rutgers that they've opened up with. It has been Ohio State, Iowa, and those types of teams. It's like the conference has to say, hey, man, we've got to do what we can to prop everybody up.
Yeah, I am going to dance on the grave of the Big Ten divisions when this season is all said and done, and hopefully, we go 13 plus years in between ever having even the possibility of having to open up against the Buckeyes again. But as Tom Allen said, it's a great challenge for him. I don't know that it's a very winnable challenge, but it's certainly going to let you know right off the bat exactly where this program stands and what it needs to do in order to achieve its goals. But more than anything, I'm just excited to get back out on 17th Street and see some friends and feel some energy and cheer on the Hoosiers again with my family.
Absolutely. And then one other thing is, once if the Big Ten Conference it gets up to an eventuality of 18 teams, right now they only play a 20-game college basketball schedule. So you could either play every team in the conference once and add Purdue for a second round and round, or there's going to be teams that you don't play in the conference. That's going to change the conference immeasurably, because if you're playing people once, that means you're going to UCLA or somebody is coming here and not there. It's going to be a big change in scheduling.
Yeah, I think just from an equity standpoint, you're going to have to find a way that everybody visits. Everybody at least has one matchup, at least one. And then you've got your protected rivalries where you're guaranteed a home and away with. And then you get into the alternating 2 plays. But I think that's far more manageable than trying to figure out how you equitably divide the football side of it, quite frankly. But those are likely conversations and challenges soon to be tackled, because it certainly feels like we're barreling towards that eventuality right now.
Chronic Hoosier, can't thank you enough, brother. Have a great day.
Hey, you as well, Jim. Thanks for having me. We'll catch you guys next week.
You betcha. Chronic Hoosier joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We've got more coming up. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
All right. What is tomorrow? What is Wednesday?
All right, Jim.
Hold on. Who's on tomorrow?
I don't know.
All right.
All right. We go live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday, August 1st, rather. It felt like an April night last night. So unbelievable. How about this weather? Crazy good. Not going to complain about it. Hope everyone had a good day. Tomorrow on the program, Kyle Neddenrip from the Indy Star, of course. I put down Bob Kravitz. It's Rick Bozich. And we'll see what else we can get scared up. Also, though, I believe tomorrow is the first day, and I'm trying to get that pulled up real quick. I believe tomorrow is... Well, actually, yep. Tomorrow's the first day of Indiana football fall camp. So, not sure that we'll get out there tomorrow because they practice while we were doing the show. But we will definitely be out there and try to bounce it around in between. As we'll bring that to you. We'll talk to Tom Allen tomorrow after practice, of course. We'll have that for you on Wednesday. No, that's today. We'll talk to Tom today. We'll have him tomorrow on the show. And then, of course, tomorrow practice begins. Afterwards, we'll talk to Bob Bostad, the new offensive line coach for Indiana, whose fortunes lie on his shoulders, a lot of which. So we'll talk to him. And, of course, Friday, we'll talk to Tom Allen again, defensive line coach Paul Randolph, as well as fall camp has begun, or it begins basically tomorrow. So looking forward to that. It's always fun to get out and get to see people. That's a good thing about Big Ten Media Days. You get to see people that you don't see again for months, and maybe just once or twice. The access to the coaches is wild. You'll just be standing around, and there's Brett Bielema just standing there talking to somebody. So it's those are great times. But, man, it's on, and it's going to be a magical mystery tour this year is what can go on. There's no expectations, so that's the great thing. No expectations. What are your expectations in the Big Ten? What's Purdue going to do? What's Indiana going to do? Who's going to do what? Thank you, Fred. Mike and Chronic are always informative. They're great. That's why we love having them on. Dave asked, you guys are having your own conversations there, Greg. David, I didn't know you were in Missouri now, originally from Bloomington, but I'm glad you found us. Spread the word, brother. Spread the word. And that's the same with everybody else. Make sure if you're not listening on radio because you're outside of those areas and you're on YouTube or whatever, make sure you spread the word. And if you're not a subscriber on YouTube, please do so. Hit the subscribe, notifications, and like buttons. That is gratefully helpful to us. But and let people know. Or if you're in an area in Indiana where we should be on radio, let that station know. Let us know, but let that station know. We appreciate our great affiliates like 97.7 ESPN, The Ref, always the right call down in Evansville on the river. The voice of the region, WJOB, 1230 AM, 104.7 FM up in Hammond, Chicago, and all of our all the IU alums up in Chicago get to listen there. Over on Fort Wayne, The Fan, Fort Wayne Sports Station, 1380 The Fan. Grateful to be there as well, you guys. So wherever you're listening, there's got to be a station that carries IU sports or whatever that we should be on. Let them know, and like I said, let us know. Heath asks, is McCulley still playing wide receiver? Yes, he is. The quarterback situation is not going to change. They have what they're going to do there. Great question, Heath. Better record, Purdue or Colorado football this season? Well, I have not looked at Purdue's schedule yet, but before even doing that, I would guess Colorado, but I have not seen Colorado's schedule. And with all the change that, well, I don't know, has there been more change at Purdue or Colorado, which we know there's been crap tons of player changes at Colorado, so that easily answers that. Let's see. Who do the Boilers? Fresno State. Well, they would have been playing against Kalen DeBoer. Yeah, that'd been a few years ago. Virginia Tech Hokies. Syracuse. Purdue does not have an easy schedule, although they do have Fresno State at home. They have to travel to Lane Stadium to take on Virginia Tech. That is not going to be an easy win. They do get Syracuse at home, Wisconsin at home, Illinois at home. Then they have to travel to Iowa. They get Ohio State at home. They go to Nebraska. They have to go to Michigan. They get Minnesota at home. They have to go to Northwestern, and then they get Indiana at home. All right, so I'm going to go with boy, that Illinois game is going to be a tough one. 4, 5. Purdue is going to be, man, what's the over and under for Purdue? 5. I'm going to put it at 5. Do they make a bowl game? They're going to be tricky. They got a little bit better opportunity, I think, because they've got a little bit more in place, but they have a new coach. They've lost some players. They lost their quarterback. We're over. RC didn't let me know that. So we got to. Oh, that's right. We're not. We almost were.
I was going to let you go 2 minutes over because we started 2 minutes late. So
No. Well, you're right. I realized that as soon as I said that. Good thing I looked down there though. But he says he's told constantly by a Purdue fan that Dion won't have the same success he had at HB. Well, no one's going to have that same success, especially starting off. Think about Scott Frost in Central Florida and what he did there, and then what happened when he went to Nebraska. It's not the same deal, man. This is a different level of football. I don't care if it's HBCU or whatever it is. This is not the same level, people. It's a different level. Dave, it's been great to have you aboard, man. Like I said, hope you join us every day. I have not heard anything about IU football ticket sales. They're probably not. What are they going to? He said he saw where UK passed 40,000. man, this is not, Indiana is not going to, that's just not going to happen until there's a commitment. And they had that shot a couple of years ago. It was there, and that momentum was just lost. But oh well. Thanks a lot for everybody joining us on the Andy Moore Honda Hotline today. We appreciate you. Appreciate everybody listening, no matter how you are, whether it's on radio, podcast, or YouTube. We appreciate you guys immensely. Big thanks, of course, to Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network, Chronic Hoosier. RC for keeping us between the white lines, and most importantly, to you guys. Without you, we've got no reason to be here, and without you, we'd be miserable. Big thanks. We're back tomorrow to do this all again. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.